I want to begin this new Devi special episode with speaking about Saraswati Ma.
Okay.
I remember you once saying that every deity in Sanatan Dharma has a tantric version attached to it. Saraswati Ma as well.
Of course, there is a tantric version of it, but before that, we understand that Ma Saraswati is uh, is the deity who is two aspects of her. One is the creativity aspect, which is, of course, she gives you that impetus to create something, that inspiration, for lack of better words, which all artists, either it's flowing or it's not flowing or whatever. So you wait for that muse, that inspiration. She governs that. And she also ensures that there is a perfection in the execution. That is also important.
Damn.
Yes. So, like I think I had read somewhere, some English author, I don't remember who it was, perhaps Mark Twain or somebody, who had written that. So, after he writes a piece or something like that, so for 2 hours he reviews it and then adds a comma, and then after 2 hours removes that comma because you're trying to get that right, perfect thing which only an artist can understand. And everything at the end of the day eventually turns into art when it is very high level. Okay, everything at the highest level. If at the day one it starts into art without the structure and background, then it will become too useless. Okay, it's not refined. First, there has to be the structure, there has to be the building, and only your rooftop garden comes at the end. वो पहले नहीं बनेगा. So therefore, she comes at the end, and she also leads to perfection. So that where to put that comma and where to remove that comma, where there should be a brush stroke if you're a painter, and where not. That's her inspiration. And this governs the final output, the power behind the final output. So that is one of the primary domains of Ma Saraswati. And she ensures that there are, for sometimes it's believed that if the blessings of Saraswati comes into a family, then it lasts for many generations. So therefore you'd find musicians often that, family of musicians come one after the other. Very talented people get born into that same, family. It can be anything, any kind of art, not necessarily. It can also be, by the way, the Shastras. Somebody who has great knowledge of the texts is also some blessing of Saraswati is there.
They probably pass it down the generations, or Saraswati Ma passes it down
Possibly.
the generations.
That's possible. So in olden times, what used to happen is, if there's if somebody has the panditva, if he's a say a guru or a teacher or an acharya, that's very likely that the soul that is born into his family would be trained into that same knowledge, right? So there are many instances where that knowledge and the wisdom passes down the family. Okay, at least the knowledge passes down. Between knowledge and wisdom, there is a gap. Just because you have knowledge does not mean you will be able to churn out wisdom out of it. That depends on other factors. So all these are multiple things are there. Now, there are two corresponding energies of Ma Saraswati that is there in the Tantras. One is who is known as Matangi. Matangi has that ability. She has the ability of not only multiple aspects are there. One of the aspects that is there is that extreme knowledge of mantra shastras. Okay, so sometimes her the vahana or the animal which is depicted along with her is that of a parrot. Parrot has the ability to listen to anything and remember and repeat. So she gives that quality.
In many ways, the Vahana probably represents the deity, right?
It represents the energy of the deity. If you read the iconography, you'll get half of the information from there. More than half, actually. This is one aspect. So she governs mantra shastras. She governs tremendous amount of, but there is a difference in the tantric form of Matangi. She, along with the knowledge, she also gives the capacity to attract.
What?
Everybody.
Like you become more attractive.
No, your performance, whatever art you know, it's so compelling that people will be mesmerized by it. So to put it this way, Saraswati, normal Saraswati that we have, may bless an individual. You may be very talented, but it's possible nobody knows about you. You are an extremely talented writer or extremely talented musician, but only you know, and maybe 1-2 family members nobody knows. Fame is not tied to talent. Immediately tied, not immediately tied. But when Matangi comes into play, she creates a specific sammohana, power of attraction in that individual's art that makes it compelling. So it's like for people who engage in, say, politicians or somebody who has to deal with masses, or a mass speaker, or anybody who's deal with a lot of people. For them, blessings of Matangi can be a huge boost. People will be completely, mesmerized and hypnotized by so whatever they're speaking. Not just speaking; it could be a musician, for example, or an artist, somebody who has to interact with a lot of public. Matangi, Matangi's blessing can help in making sure that whatever is being spoken or done, or the artistic output, is mass accepted by people and loved by people.
It's like it adds a bit of a tadka to your process of fame.
Yes, and it's there is another aspect to Matangi also. It can there are multiple forms of Matangi, by the way. There are some forms where so there is also forms which are actually Matangi Upasana, by the way, is very popular among a lot of politicians, especially because you have to win elections. Votes, who are going to give the votes? It's only people who will give the votes.
And the people will listen to your speeches.
Listen to your speeches, meet you, or whatever it is. So people get pujas done of Matangi, forms of Matangi, some forms of Matangi.
Public speaking is a form of art.
Can
Probably
be,
she's
yeah.
blessing your public speaking.
Yeah. There's another Saraswati in the Tantras. We spoke about it briefly last time. Nila Saraswati, which is linked to Tara.
Linked to Tara.
A form of Tara. There are 3 forms of Tara: Ugra Tara, Nila Saraswati, Ekajata. So Nila Saraswati form of Ma Tara is also Saraswati. But here Nila Saraswati creates a spontaneous knowledge. So her knowledge is slightly different from the kind of knowledge that Matangi gives. Matangi will give you proficiency. Proficiency means 10 things you will quote immediately. You'll be very good with, you'll have a mesmerizing effect. Okay, suppose Matangi were to bless somebody verbally, okay, with verbal proficiency. So he will use quotes, this, that, shift multiple languages. It will create a mesmerizing effect on the people listening.
Kumar Vishwas.
Maybe
He definitely, I don't know whether or not he knows that he's blessed by Matangi, but I feel like he might
but
be.
that is the propensity or the power that Matangi can create, among any other powers also.
Sure.
Whereas Nila Saraswati's power is slightly different. There's also Saraswati. She blesses you with a very spontaneous knowledge that comes beyond Jnana. That is Vijnana. She is a deity who sits in the cremation ground. And there's a lotus. On the lotus she's sitting. Okay. And she holds skulls and this and that, etc. etc. But she is the knowledge that comes in enlightenment, whatever you call it. Okay. Whatever name, Shunya, enlightenment, this, that, etc. So there is an expansive capacity of the brain that increases, and such. It may happen that, you ask, there's a doubt or a question that comes into the individual's mind, and the answer will organically pop up. That this is the right answer. So that thing is governed by Nila Saraswati, form of Matara.
Okay.